This meeting changes everything. On top of it, we had a bombshell interview today that dropped that unveiled the United States plan for Bitcoin. So, of course, we're talking about the legendary meeting that we thought we might never see between Nayib Bukele and Donald Trump today at the White House.
Ready closed. Ready shut. Ready face. Forward march.
Well, would you look at that? Donald Trump and Nayib Bukele getting along just great. In fact, Nayib Bukele's official account tweeting out friends today. As we all know, they have a close connection between United States and El Salvador because El Salvador has taken a lot of the gang members from the United States into the prisons in El Salvador. But there is something very, very close that we all know and love that is very connected to this meeting. And of course, we're talking about the orange coin, folks. We are talking about Bitcoin because not only is Nayib Bukele and Donald Trump very close because of what they are doing politically, but they're also very close for what they are doing with the orange coin. Now, this on top of a bombshell interview dropped by the one and only Pomp with Bo Hines really unveils the secret plan that they are cooking here in the United States. Now, let's get into what Bo Hines had to say in this great clip.
Has made it very clear that we're going to be the Bitcoin superpower of the globe.
I'm here with Bo Hines. He's the executive director of the Crypto Council. Do you have a personal goal for the number of Bitcoin that the United States could have?
I'd like it to be infinite. I want as much as we can possibly accumulate.
The White House administration has been taken by storm by a bunch of Bitcoiners.
We've publicly said that we believe that Bitcoin is digital gold. And with the strategic Bitcoiners.
Now, look at that. They've publicly said that Bitcoin is digital gold. And in fact, in that interview as well, they were talking about how Bitcoin is something that is scarce as an asset. And basically putting a number on how much Bitcoin you want is absolutely lunatic because they want to get as much Bitcoin as possible. Now, on top of that, what have all we seen here, right? We see El Salvador continue to stack day in and day out. In fact, Nayib Bukele, you see this bump that they have here. It's being covered up, but the IMF tried to block El Salvador from buying Bitcoin not too long ago. If you guys all recall, Nayib Bukele and El Salvador got a major loan from the IMF, multiple billions of dollars, and used that to buy Bitcoin. So similar to what Michael Saylor was doing, utilizing every single tactic under the sun in order to accumulate as much Bitcoin as possible. We have the potential now to see the United States to print money to get as much Bitcoin as possible. In fact, we've actually seen that the United States has come out and said that they would like to sell their gold reserves in order to buy more Bitcoin, finding more tax-efficient strategies. There's been Bitcoin bonds that have been coming out. In fact, El Salvador and Nayib Bukele were looking into the volcano bonds as well. So they're both communicating here back and forth on not only how to solve the crime issue, which was a major issue in El Salvador previously, and now is nothing to be seen, but they're also talking about Bitcoin and the financial position. I mean, how many other presidents of El Salvador have come and fully visited the United States and sat down with the president of the United States, similar to what Nayib Bukele has done? I'll tell you this, I don't think I could ever remember anything in my lifetime like this. And now we're seeing it unveil before our eyes, right? We're talking about this, which happened just over a month ago. In fact, a month and a couple of days, it looks like, about the Bitcoin strategic reserve and the digital asset stockpile. So what ended up happening from that? The United States, like they did, said that they weren't going to buy anything else. They were simply going to move the Bitcoin that they had seized and make it into a strategic reserve. Now, what else did they say in that, which was unique and something that we as Bitcoiners were worrying about for some time? Well, they said that they were going to keep all of the other digital assets, but when it came down to it, they were not going to sell any Bitcoin, but they were potentially going to sell other cryptocurrencies. So what does that mean? That means that they're extremely bullish on Bitcoin. And they're going to become, even though Donald Trump is claiming to be the first crypto president, this could make him just a strictly Bitcoin president, similar to Nayib Bukele. And all eyes were on this meeting, and we're on it for quite some time. Why is Bukele meeting at the White House? What are they going to discuss? Well, all of the crypto and Bitcoin publications were looking at it as the potential for a Bitcoin gathering of the minds, meeting of the minds, so to speak, right? So we see Trump and Bukele, the hype was there for quite some time, a couple of weeks, in fact. They may touch on a variety of issues like immigration, gang violence, and U.S. and El Salvador relations, but they trying to meet with Bitcoin advocate Nayib Bukele. So that is really what he's made his name on, at least globally, at least in all of these publications, right? I mean, he's been on various different platforms talking about different things, right? I mean, Bukele's been on Tucker Carlson, for example, and Tucker did not ask him about Bitcoin. But how many big giant media publications, like I said, were going to talk to some sort of president from a Latin American country like this? Unless they're saying something crazy, you know? The only time we see anything from like a Colombian president, for example, is when he says crazy things like cocaine is just as bad as smoking cigarettes or something else. So, but the meeting of the minds that occurred here, we're all talking about, oh, these guys are, what do they have in common? They are pro Bitcoin. They are pro this, pro that, right? But the biggest thing, pro Bitcoin leaders unite. Trump invites Bukele to the White House. Bloomberg reported it. The April meeting follows the two leaders tightening bonds on topics like immigration and security. Bukele's office confirmed the visit, with the White House so far refusing to comment, which is interesting. But I mean, the White House is always very private with these type of things. So I'm not saying that the White House was embarrassed Bukele was coming by any means. I'm not trying to infer anything like that. But let's get going here. People familiar with the matter said after the Central American leader agreed to jail hundreds of alleged Venezuelan gang members deported from the U.S. The action increased cooperation between the two countries. So Bukele knew what he was doing here, right? It's chess, not checkers, folks. These guys know that these moves can bring countries closer together, which can thus benefit their own country. So by locking up these Venezuelan gang members, Bukele was bringing in more and more publicity to El Salvador, which was also helping, right? So El Salvador's Nayib Bukele, obviously very well known as the Bitcoin president, has suggested he is open to visiting the U.S. president, right? This was pre. Now, he's posting this. He's open to it. Now they're friends, right? They're all shaking hands, kissing babies here. But I think it's, it's something to be seen here. And I think that we have to look at the way that they have conducted everything in El Salvador. They've been a Bitcoin country that has been leading the charge rapidly. They're seeing Bitcoin, buying a Bitcoin every single day, and have been doing so, buying the dips, continuing to buy the dips. And honestly, just everywhere they turn, you see Nayib Bukele doing something extremely beneficial for the country of El Salvador. And in fact, bringing in those Bitcoin type of ideals to the president. Now, it is very great, and they think that they're going to continue this bond. And a big issue here or a big commonality here is the Bitcoin commonality, right? Obviously, Trump wants to be one of the most Bitcoin friendly presidents, the most crypto friendly presidents. Bo Hines, in his interview today that dropped with Pomp, even came out and said that he wants to reverse fully choke point 2.0. And here's what else he said.
We wanted to build a digital Fort Knox.
I think a lot of the American people want to understand, what does this asset mean for me?
This is an industry that's been broadly beaten down and kicked down really over the course of the last decade and a half. The president made it very clear that he wanted to basically eradicate anything that undergirded the Operation Choke Point 2.0.
So a big stab at what everything was going on with the last administration is now going to be completely reversed, right? They are looking at these kind of things and saying, hey, we do not like what the overall, what the Biden administration was doing towards Bitcoin. They were extremely unfriendly with all of them, and they did not like exactly what they were seeing. So we're going to see them, as we showed in the beginning, now start to buy up as much Bitcoin as possible. In fact, in that interview, Bo Hines said, putting a number on the amount of Bitcoin they want is kind of lunacy. They said that they wanted to buy infinite amount of Bitcoin. Obviously, there's only 21 million, and you can make the argue that there's less with lost coins, so to speak. So we're going to see the United States really start to put some gasoline on the fire here, because we're not exactly seeing the price of Bitcoin skyrocket in flight. Pew! Afternoon delight. I got a comment that maybe I should use Rocket Man instead of that song. I don't know. You guys let me know what you guys think of my rendition of Afternoon Delight that I've got going on here, when we've only got Bitcoin at 84.5K. I always like to check the price. People might say I'm a moon boy, but what I'm saying here is that even with all this bullish news, we're still seeing the price suppressed a decent amount, right? But in my opinion, I think that means it's a great time to stack Bitcoin. And what other way can you stack Bitcoin efficiently outside of the Bitcoin well? I'll tell you, folks, there isn't one, because the Bitcoin well is the best way to buy Bitcoin. They are lunatics, because every single time you buy Bitcoin, they give you some wishing well tokens where you have the chance to win up to 1 million sats. That's a milli, folks. What the helly? We're seeing it, right? We are seeing these lunatics give you more and more Bitcoin every single day. So get your Lightning wallets ready, because the best non-custodial exchange there is giving you 210 sats straight to your dome piece. So if you haven't already, as my man, let's check on the chat. We got some people all over the place. We got somebody laughing on Twitter. We've got McLovin saying, I need to keep my J job. I think my voice is great, McLovin. I don't know what you're saying here, man. I speak into this microphone every single day, so it's got to be good, right? Just kidding. Obviously, smoke that like Cheech Chong, and make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell notification so you know when I am trying to give you guys some free sats at the Bitcoin well. Look, if you guys can't make it, or you would like to get some free sats yourself, go to bitcoinwell.com/greencandle. That link is in the description, and you can buy some, or you could sign up, buy Bitcoin, and earn some wishing well tokens yourself. But you need to have a wallet outside of there, because it's strictly self-custodial. So I've got some help for you. You could go to bitbox.swiss/greencandle. You'll see this great quote that I got here, that Bitcoin self-custody does not need to be a difficult task. Bitbox 02 makes it easy to utilize the true power of Bitcoin and truly be your own bank. And on top of that, they've got everything you need. I suggest the Bitcoin only edition. Get that. Then they got metal backups. You can do any kind you'd like. And they got the hammering kit. So you can go to all one place, bitbox.swiss, use promo code GreenCandle. And on top of that, once you use promo code GreenCandle, you get 5% off. And you want to do it quick, folks, because we got possibly the best photo on X, the meeting of the minds, so to speak. We've got Nayib Bukele continuing to be an extremely huge Bitcoin bull, and in fact, trying to make the United States one of the crypto superpowers, right? I mean, I'm more of wanting it to be a Bitcoin superpower, but you get the point, right? All of these different leaders around the globe, few are doing like Nayib Bukele. A lot of people talk, few are about that action, boss. But President Trump seems to be about that action because he signed this executive order just a few days into his administration, establishing a Bitcoin strategic reserve and a United States digital asset stockpile. And then he's continuing to double and triple down on his stance with Bitcoin. He's had a White House crypto summit. He's brought people in from all over. He's got, of course, David Sachs continuing there. And he's continuing to keep this thing humming, continuing to keep Bitcoin at the top of his priorities for all of this. And meeting with one of the biggest leaders where El Salvador adopted Bitcoin as legal tender and holds reserves, right? I mean, this is a huge little wrinkle here. If Donald Trump was worried about the IMF, worried about the backlash that this could potentially see, would he have done it if he didn't see the true benefit? I don't think so. So in my opinion, he sees the true benefit of it all. And I think it's going to continue with all of these guys continuing to meet and essentially bring Bitcoin to every single country and government. I think I wouldn't be surprised the two pro-Bitcoin leaders have maintained connections. Trump and Bukele held a phone conversation days after his inauguration, during which they discussed collaboration on combating illegal immigration and transnational gangs. He would be the first leader from a Western Hemisphere to receive an official White House under the Trump's presidency. So that's drastic, right? The first leader of the Western Hemisphere under a Trump presidency. He's not bringing anybody from Europe. He's bringing somebody from not too far to visit. So it is uncommon for this thing to happen. We don't really see a lot of South and Central American presidents coming to the United States to discuss directly with the president. But Donald Trump sees this as an opportunity. He sees this as something that they should be looking into and they should be meeting with. So I think this is beneficial from all sides of the party. And I think we are going to start to see McLovin in the chat is asking when moon. He likes the skyrockets. Look, the timing on all of this is really tough. We're seeing a lot of sideways chop. You got to know about the chop. A month of just chop. 6 months, we have seen somewhat of an increase. But remember, there's a lot that can be done, that can happen very quickly here in the Bitcoin space. Even though we're down 9% year to date, I'm still extremely bullish. We have the tariffs being taken off, and we have a lot of things coming up in the pipeline. So as my man All Nighter Hider always says, smoke the like, hit the subscribe button, get the bell notifications so you guys know when I am going live, and then you can get the free sats. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and thank you guys all for joining this great rip.